Good evening. And welcome to On Eagle's Wings in the Eagle's Nest, Hour of Empowerment. Tonight, we're going to have a special guest in the Eagle's Nest on tonight. We have Mr. Christopher Ford with us tonight. Wave to the people, Mr. Chris.
Hello.
This segment in the Eagle's Nest, Hour of Empowerment, is different than any other type of segment that you may see. This is a segment where I will have people who are dealing with real life issues. And they found themselves in an eagle's nest. But how many of you know that even though you may find yourself in a nest, that doesn't mean that you're going to always be in there. So the eagle's nest the slogan says, you may be in it, but you're coming out soaring. So tonight we want to deal with a subject that's dear to my heart, as well as Mr. Christopher Ford's heart. And so tonight we're going to be discussing foster care and adoption. And I know a lot of people really don't understand what foster care is and what adoption is and what it is not. So tonight we wanted to sit down and have a conversation. I want to talk to Mr. Chris because Mr. Chris has adopted 2 kids. And I have adopted 1, and we both adopted our kids from the foster system. And so we just want to talk about that experience with you on tonight and kind of give you an idea of what it is like to be an adopted parent from 2 different angles. One, I'm a single parent, and Mr. Chris, if you don't mind me sharing, Mr. Chris is how you want to say homosexual? You want me to say gay? Or I like to use the word alternative lifestyle. You know, everybody uses whatever term they want to use, but I like to use the term alternative lifestyle. And he's not ashamed of it, and I'm not ashamed of sitting down having a conversation with him because it's real life, and this is part of life. And so I wanted to share his story, and I wanted to share my story, even though they are different, because a lot of times when people look at people adopting, they always think about a 2-parent household where you have a mother and a father, a traditional way of adopting or a traditional way of raising kids. But nowadays we're seeing that because the family unit, the traditional unit that we call family, may not always be in place, but that does not mean that a child should go lacking from having the love of a parent or the love of a person who's willing to take them in and care for them as their own. So this segment tonight is dealing with foster care and adoption. And so we're talking tonight again with Mr. Christopher Ford. Amen. Hey, Mr. Chris.
Hello.
And how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing fabulous.
Well, that's
it's
good.
A nice Saturday afternoon.
It is a nice Saturday. Now, you know, even though it's, how they say, it's raining outside, that doesn't mean that it has to be raining on the inside.
That's right.
So tonight, you know, even though it's like that, some people say it's all doom and gloom outside, hey, but the sun shines in here, Chris.
It is shining.
We're in here. We're in the Eagle's Nest on today. And so, Mr. Chris, tell the people a little bit something about you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Ford. First, I would like to thank my host for allowing me in the Eagle's Nest. My name is Chris Ford. I am married. I have a Master's of Arts in Teacher Special Education. I teach 6 to 8 self-contained and drive a school bus for Meridian Public School. I have 2 wonderful boys that I have adopted. Some of my hobbies include cooking, watching TV, spending time with family, and just enjoying life in general. We have went through the foster care system, but I enjoyed it. And it was an experience, and I promised I would do it all over again.
Yeah, it was an experience within itself. You can hold on to the mics. I think I talk kind of loud, and if I don't, you know, hey, it's okay. But tell me a little something. What inspired you to become a foster parent?
Well, I always wanted to be a foster parent, you know, not just because I lived an alternative life, but I always wanted to have a child that had a life that wasn't so pleasant, and I wanted to make a change with it. So I found out a way that we can do it. When we first started, I didn't think we was going to be able to do it because of the alternative lifestyle. So we went and checked it out, and everything was just going normal and smooth, and They welcomed us with open arms, and we just went through the process, with our fingers crossed, and it happened.
Yeah, that's about how it was with me. I was kind of in a place where I hadn't had, kids myself, and I was, it's almost like it came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered doing foster care? And I was like, I don't know if I want to do foster care because there's been so many stigmas associated with adopting kids from foster care. Everybody, they'll say you don't need to adopt no child from foster care. Them children got issues, they got problems. You're gonna have problems down the road. Dealing with foster care because you can't discipline. You can't do this to them. You can't do that to them. And and it's gonna be hard to love them and different stuff because they're gonna always act out and different things like that. But when I came to make the decision to do it, I was settled in my heart that it really doesn't matter if that's the case, because if God has opened this door or God has put this on my heart to do, then I know that God is gonna see me through it, and He's not gonna allow me to adopt a child or foster a child and I not be in a position where I can do what I need to do. Yeah, we saw the TV shows where some people have abused kids in the foster system, but that's not the case with everybody. Some foster parents and everybody, they're loving. They nurture the kids. They they do everything with the kids as if they're their own. Now, when I went through the process, I didn't do foster care here in Mississippi. I did my foster care in Louisiana, and I'm quite sure the process is the same. Now, when I went through, I had to do a series of classes. Did you do some classes? Ooh, were them classes something else?
It was something else.
And it wasn't just one class.
No, it was quite a few.
Yes, it was. I was like, when I was going through, I said, you mean to tell me this is the process that you have to go to do foster care? I was like, I thought you just said you want to do it, and it happened. But no, child, you go through a class, they want to know your life history. Then they do a psychological. Now, when they want to do the psychological part of it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be striked out. I'm gonna be striked out because everybody call me cray cray, and your mama Pastor Gail had to call me mentality. So I was like, Lord have mercy, they gonna give me a child. I said, I don't know, I may not make it, because they did that. They want to know about your what happened as a child. Did you have any traumatic experiences?
Right.
How were you disciplined in your home? And I was like, what difference does that make? But I think it kind of they want to know where your mind is, and how, if a child is placed with you, what type of values and what type of things that will you instill in the child. And if you had a traumatic childhood growing up, part of that is like they think that you'll bring that into the parenting situation with the child. And these kids are already coming from a traumatic situation. So we put them with you and you don't have a traumatic situation. They're wondering if something's going to resurface, that it'll be a negative for the child. But, I was like, I ain't got nothing to worry about on that part. Because I know that, the family that I came from, I know that the structure was there, just like with you.
Right. And I just want to go back to what you were saying with the different steps you had to go through. We was the same way. Every step of the way, we had our fingers crossed. Like, is this the point where they're going to shut it down and stop it? But I also, even though I didn't see it then, what they were doing, they was actually trying to get to know us, to see how to pair the different kids with us, because they just don't put children in your home. They have to make sure that they're a good match for the home. And so I did appreciate that, even though it was a little like, oh my God, what are they doing? But in the long run, it helped because they're trying to pair somebody with you that's for you. And
then I like the way they do it, because what it does when they pair you that way, it's almost like, even though you didn't birth that child, they have similar qualities or characteristics that you have. So it's almost like you actually birthed the child. Because that's like, people tell me all the time with Isaac, they used to argue me down and say that I was pregnant, I had a child, I didn't tell nobody, I concealed the pregnancy until, he got to a certain age and came out, because he looked like me, act like me, he had my ways. But that's just how how good God is too, because He knows what He has. Like the Bible says, Jeremiah 29:11, when God knows the plans that He has for us, even in this was part of His plan. You know, we didn't know it was a part of His plan, but when we came into it, and I can remember when I had my home visit. This was funny to me. When I had my home visit, I had Miss Prince. You know, my dog, Miss Prince. And you know, Miss Prince, you come to the house. You weren't coming to the house without her barking and carrying on. And so what happened was, the person who came to do my home study, she was barking and carrying on. So they said, "Oh no, we can't put no kids with you. You got a ferocious dog." I said, "Who?" I said, "What a ferocious dog at?" And they was like, "Her." I said, "Oh no. I said, Miss Chris ain't no ferocious dog." I said, "You must be scared of her." I said, "Because one thing, she's locked in a room and can't come out and see who's in here, and she's doing what she's supposed to do, defend the house." And so I had a talk with the lady who was over. She said, "What I'm gonna do?" She said, "I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna meet Miss Chris, and I'm gonna see for myself." And so when she came out, and when I let Miss Chris out, Miss Chris came and did her little thing, slipped on and jumped on. She said, "Oh no, this dog right here is not mean at all." So she said, "We're gonna finish the paperwork and everything." I was like, "Woo, Lord!" I said, "Cause I thought, hey, you done told me to do this, and then you telling me now that I got a dog, I can't do it." I said, "They want me to put her outside." I said, "She ain't no outside dog. This my child here." And then I put Isaac outside. I was like, "This is my baby. She stay in the house." And so that was one of the challenges that I had when I was doing it. But one of the things that they always told us when we was doing foster care was that the goal was always reunification.
That's right.
With the family. And a lot of times when you do in foster care, sometimes you may get a child you may get attached to. Oh, yeah. And one thing that they always say, you got to wear your feelings kind of like on your sleeve, because you can't really get attached, but it's hard not to get attached.
Because you wonder, like, how can I take care of a child and don't put my all into it?
Right.
And so it makes you, and like you said, when we first started fostering, I never had the intentions to adopt, the boys, but it happened. So, but that's one thing I used to talk to Mama about. I said, "Mama, I'm scared they're gonna leave, but I can't physically care for them like I need to unless I put it there." So I had to put it there. And I just hope for the best and hope if they did leave that I'll be able to handle it. But that is a challenge. You will get attached to it. There's no way around it.
Right. Because I know before I got Isaac, I had a child that came to me before Isaac did. And then when they came and, the child reunited back with the family, I told myself, I said, "I can't do this." I said, "I'm not going to be able to be one who could do fostering, because I know I'm going to get attached." And I said, "I don't want to feel that feeling of, like you said, putting your all into a child, and then they come and take the child. Even though in your mind, you already know that this child is going back home. And that's what you want them to do, is to go back home, because you want the families to put back together. And you're thankful that you're a part of that process while the person work on themselves. But after that happened, I was like, I told the guy that was my caseworker, I said, I said, "I'm not going to be able to do this." I said, "I think the best thing for me to do is fostering to adopt. That way the child that I foster has the intent of being adopted, so I wouldn't get attached." And what wound up happening, because Isaac was in, it had been in foster care. When I met Isaac, he was already at the point to be adopted. So, sometimes you get kids who in the foster system, you got to go through a series of steps and different things before the child gets available to be adopted. But Isaac was already at that point. So I didn't have to go through all of those different steps to do it. All I had to do was have him. And it was interesting that even when I decided to adopt him, that's still a process before you adopt. They have to come. They have to live with you. You have people coming out. They're checking you. They're making sure the home is okay. They're making sure the child is okay. They're sitting down having meetings with you. They're sitting down having meetings with the child. And it's not that they're saying that you're not a good person, but they just making sure that before this child comes, because their responsibility until you actually sign that paper, they're making sure that this child is going to be well taken care of. And that's the thing that the experience that I had as far as it went to with adopting. So how well and receptive, because everybody's, like I said, is not receptive to foster care and dealing with it. How well and receptive was your family to the idea of you doing foster care and then adopting?
That's
How
a
well
good
was
question. Well, my family was very well receptive to it. For one, my aunt, you already had adopted,
it? Mm-hmm.
so they were kind of already used to the process. Then I think as a whole, our family always have, not necessarily legally adopted people, but they
Right.
always have taken people in, that wasn't our own. So they was very receptive to it. They was supportive. We had no challenges with it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that comes from our, how they say, our matriarch,
that's right.
Miss Dorothy, and
That's
Miss
right.
Dot. Because your grandmother and my mother, she always took care of kids, whether they were hers, her nieces, or whoever kids. She loved the idea of being there and being a support for kids, whether they were family kids or whatever. And even when we were growing up as kids used to come to our house because they liked our mother,
Yeah.
because that's just the type of person that she is. And even when she passed, everybody like, nah, Miss Dot, how Miss Dot? Because that's the person she was. So naturally, that came easy for us to be able to love other kids that were not our kids, because of the simple fact of the way that we were raised and how we were raised, to treat people how we would want to be treated and respect people regardless of their situation or regardless of their background and everything. But, I did have a couple, people when I was thinking about doing it that would tell me, like if God intended for you to have, have kids, He would have gave you your own and different stuff like that. And I'm looking like, well, God already knew that I wasn't going to be able to have kids. I didn't know that, but God knew that. And so when God was telling me to do this, had I not listened, when I did get to the point where I can't have kids, then I would have missed Isaac, and I would have missed being an integral part in his life as well. And the thing that that I love about this, I had a lady who came to me when I was in the process, and I was like, I'm feeling down. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. She said, God has His eye on the child that He has for you. And I was like, huh? And she just told me, she said, God has His eye on the child that He has for you. And I was like, okay, then, well, God, you have your eyes on this time, and everything. And so they called me one day out the blue and said, hey, we got this. I know what happened was I was going through how they have kids on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going through the screen of the website, and I came across this picture on the website, and I looked at it. It was a little boy named Isaac. And I looked at it, I said, look at the little boy right here. I said, he's smiling real big. And then I was reading his description about him, and I saw one thing that stood out to me. I said, oh, he loved chicken nuggets. That stood out to me. And I said, chicken nuggets? I said, of all things, he loved chicken nuggets. And so, one day I got a call, and I said, they told me that they got a little boy that they want me to come and meet. His name is Isaac. And I was like, wait a minute. I said, this can't be the same little boy that I just saw on the website that I was kind of questioning about, should I call and tell them I would be interested in meeting this little boy, taking this little boy. I was like, nah, maybe somebody else, whatever. Mm-hmm. I said, that's too coincidental. And so when I went in and met him, and I was laughing because when I walked in, it was a little boy. And the thing about it was so funny to me. He was on the floor playing with, where Dora was out. Dora on the floor. He had Diego and all of them. He was on the floor playing. It reminded me of you when you was little, had that school bus. And he had those toys. He was playing with them. And I got down the floor with him and sat down with him. And he acted like he was all shy and everything, couldn't talk and stuff. And I was playing with him and everything. And he, to this day, he still do it. I was sitting there just playing with him. He jumped up, ran over, gave me a kiss on the cheek and ran back. And almost like he was like, was I supposed to do that? Was that okay? And to this day, he still does that. And I was like, wow, God, the way you did this and how you did it. And I was like, but one thing that, that I learned too, that even though we are adopting, the kids are being adopted. Mm-hmm. So have you found out in the process of you adopting your two boys, do they struggle sometimes with the adoption?
I think the reason why I don't think they're struggling, and the reason why I say this is because we spent so long a time fostering that they knew and they actually wanted it. They knew the life they had came from, and they wanted it. They didn't want to go nowhere else. They got so used to us that they're comfortable. They never had an issue. When we first got John, he was old enough. They asked, "Do you want to stay here?" Yes, I want to stay here. I want nothing else but to be here. And he was just so happy to be there. And to go back to how yours happened, I was happy. It's just funny how it worked out. They was telling us about a little boy named Ben. They said he got glasses. They said he likes to break his glasses. We want y'all to try him out. And my mother always told us if something leaves and come back, it's for y'all. They was telling us about Ben so long, but we never saw Ben. They said Ben went somewhere else. I said, okay. Next thing I know, we got a call, and they said, we have a boy named Ben coming. And I said, well, what is this, the Ben with the glasses? True enough, Ben came with some glasses on. That was the Ben that was breaking the glasses. And we had to take him to summer school. And I took him to summer school, and we saw a Caucasian male that was in the same house. They was in the same foster home before they came to us. And he was speaking, saying, hey, Ben. And that was John. And one day Ben was just bringing home teddy bears, cars, and all that stuff. I said, Ben, where are you getting all this stuff from? I said, don't you bring nothing else home. And then we finally got John. We found out John was giving Ben those items. So we had ran into John, not knowing that John would be with us in the end.
See that?
So it was amazing how we have Ben. But they settled in pretty well. They wanted to be there.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, and I found out with Isaac, he settled in, but he still had some issues that he had to work through. Because I didn't have Isaac that long as far as foster. He came straight from his foster home to my home. And so his thing was, he came, he got dropped off, and he never went back. So his mind, he was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen here? And through the years, he's working through it, but sometimes, even now, he still deals with the fact, if I go somewhere out of town, he's thinking, okay, am I being taken and dropped off? And he gets real nervous. And, a lot of people don't really understand that. They think, oh, he needs to get over there. Well, no, that's traumatic because he was taken from a place, dropped at a place foreign to him. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. And we had to adjust to each other. And that was a process in itself because, for one, there was no real, I say support groups or something that you could go to that people was willing to talk about their experience with dealing with foster care and dealing with adoption. So working through those different avenues of his emotional things that he was dealing with, and I had to deal with my emotional things that I was dealing with because we was trying to gel together and bond because we never had that time to bond because when I got him, I was working, being a single mother, I was working. He had to go straight to daycare. So it was never a time where we just had that one-on-one, we want to spend a couple of weeks together to get to know each other. As the years have went by, we have had to get to know each other and work through different things. And, he questioned, why he wasn't, something, he questioned at one point why he wasn't, with his biological, family, which I don't have all the answers, but, the best that I could because he asked. I didn't keep it from him because he knows he's adopted. Now, that's one thing that, a lot of people fail to realize. He knows that he's adopted, but even in him knowing he's adopted, he doesn't look at it as I'm his adopted mother because he calls me mother and I call him son. Even when I got him, he called me Mama Yates when I first got him, but it wasn't long. I don't even think it was a week after that. He dropped Mama Yates and just started calling me Mama on his own. And he changed his name before the adoption.
Bob wanted that too.
And he was like, and then when he went, this is the funny part, he went to school, he started kindergarten. And the teacher knew how to do the assessment to make sure they know what they're doing. So she asked Isaac his name. And he told her his name, but she told him the name that he was going to have. He wouldn't give her his real name. He kept giving her the name that it was going to be changed to. And she came out and she walked out. She looked at perplexed and she said, he did okay on everything, but She said, every time I asked him what his name was, he kept telling me Isaac Yates. And she said, that's not what's on the paper. I said, oh, I said, that's because, I'm adopting him and he doesn't identify any longer with the name that he had. Not that he doesn't know that's his name. He just made a switch and he's saying, this is who I am and this is who I'm becoming and this is my mama now. So he, at a young age, he was only 5 when he did that. I didn't tell him to. I didn't make him do it. And even when he went to the hospital and they put the armband and it had his name on before the adoption became final, he looked at it and he looked at them. He said, this ain't my name. And it was like, I said, don't worry about it. I'm adopting him, and I said he doesn't identify. And it was like, oh, I said he doesn't identify with that, and that did not take away from his biological family. It's just that he made the switch to say, this is my mama now. This is the name that I'm going to have. This is the name that I'm happy to have. And so because I know this is where I'm going to be at, I'm your son, you my mama. So it's almost like I'm Isaac Yates.
And that's a good point. A lot of people, I've heard people saying about different people, like, why they changing that child name? They taking their identity away. But just like yours, mine wanted their last name changed. Mine was given the option.
Right.
They did not have to do it.
Right.
But they wanted to because they wanted to, I guess like you said, they just knew that this is where they were now. They no longer wanted those other names, those last names, so they still kept their first name. But they just didn't want it. They was ready for the change. They knew they was there to stay. And I guess they just wanted to feel a part of it.
Yeah. And my thing was too that when the adoption became final, they gave me a new birth certificate. Now this is the part that got me. I didn't even know this was gonna happen. I didn't even know it was even part of it. But when I got after the adoption became final and they sent me his birth certificate, they put me as the mother, him as my child, and they put on the birth certificate my age that I would have been as when he was born. So it was like he was born in 2008. So they put that I was his mother in 2008 when he was born, how old I was and everything. So it was almost like, even though I didn't birth him naturally, when I adopted him, it went all the way back and put me at that age I would have been when he was born, and I was his mother. And I said, whoa, God, ain't that how you is? That when we come into the kingdom, everything that we did prior is wiped away because now we have a new identity in Christ and a new identity in God, and God just gives us a whole new name and everything.
And that is so awesome because once it became final and once we got those birth certificates with the new names, even it's like the personalities changed. They opened up. They glowed. They just growing so much. They becoming so different. And I'm just here for it. Yeah.
And then even though they don't have your genes, because you're around them so much, you look at them like, now wait a minute. You acted just like me. I'm like, because I had to do. I was like, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so scary, because I'm just amazed at how much he acts like me. I'm amazed at how much, even though I didn't birth them, the qualities that he have. I'm like, God, you did this. You did this, and that's why I say, unless I tell people, they don't know he's even adopted. And then I know a lot of people tell me, stop saying he's adopted. That's your child. I know he's my child. He knows he's my child. But I still have to deal with the reality of it that he does have a biological family. And even though he may not always talk about it, in his mind, it does come up sometimes. So I don't want him to lose sight of the fact that, because when he gets older, he may choose to go and find out who his biological family is. And I'm not going to stop him from doing that. The only thing is I'm not allowing him to do it now because he's in an age, he's too young for it right now. For me, I don't think he's ready for that emotional part to be opened up right now. Now, when he gets older, 18, he can do whatever he wants to. And if he chooses to find out who his I'm not going to feel like he's slighting me because of everything that I did for him. I'm just thankful that God gave me an opportunity to get him to a certain point in life where he can function in society, where he can become who God wanted him to be. And I said, if he chooses to go and find his family, that's his family, you know. And it doesn't hurt for him to have two families, because like they said, love has no boundaries. You can love more than one person, and that doesn't mean that because he has a desire to know who his biological family is, that he's gonna turn around and not dislike me, or own me, or say, well, I'm with my family now, I'm gonna have nothing to do with you. I'm in a place now where, at first, when I first did the thing, I thought that, because I was like, you see it on TV. But then when I started thinking about it, I said, well, Sylvia, you gotta look at it. God allows you to be in this child's life, to get him to a place where he could be who God wanted him to be. And God chose you. The thing that I tell a lot of people when they have kids, you couldn't choose that child. Mm-mm. You had that child, and you did it on your own, or whatever way, because you know how kids get here. Mm-hmm. But when adoption, you chose that child. Mm-hmm. That child chose you, and you chose that child. Mm-hmm. And it makes the dynamics a totally different thing, because it's not something that you did, because you got pregnant. A lot of people get pregnant, but I look at our whole thing of we chose each other. We chose each other. And that's the part that I love. The whole thing about it, we chose each other. And so sometimes Isaac have had kids to pick at him about being adopted. I told Isaac, I said, don't worry about it. Just tell them, when somebody pick at you about it, just tell them God made a decision that where you were was not where he wanted you to be. He wanted you to be in a special place. So he allowed you to be with me as with you, because God knew that I had something to offer a child. And because he knew I had something to offer a child, God put it on my heart to go and sign up to adopt. I didn't know I was going to meet you, but he still put it in my heart to go and take the steps to do it. And then look now, we have each other. We're not perfect. It's like you said, there's no perfect family. But in the same regards, we're growing together. We're growing and we're experiencing life together. And like you said, it's a wonderful thing to see them grow before your eyes, and to know that whatever situation they was in before, now they're in a whole different, they're like, how they say now, they're like a flower. You know how you put the seeds in the ground and you watch the flowers bloom, and we watching them bloom, and then they're becoming into their own. And so that's the part of the whole adoption process that I liked about the whole situation. And I know that the kids are here, so do you mind if we meet the boys, or do you care?
No, I don't mind.
All right then. Isaac, John, and Ben.
They gotta come here. Come here.
Hey, could y'all come in for just a second? Y'all didn't know this was gonna take place, did you? That's a good part of the fight. Come on in, John and Ben. We're talking about adoption and foster care. So we want to hear from y'all what your experience has been since being adopted and everything. Because we know everybody's situation is different, but we just want to know what it has been like for all of you since y'all have been adopted.
Well, since I've been adopted, life has been better. I get treated way better. I have a mom that actually cares about me. She has to take care of me. And then they don't treat me like I'm just nothing.
Okay.
Since I've been adopted, I've been taken care of, fed. Because when I wasn't adopted, I've been treated like I was nothing.
Okay.
I've been sorry then.
All
I
right.
love my dad.
Oh, y'all gonna make me cry up here. This the whole and this is the whole thing, the whole process of what I wanted to share in this empowerment segment on today is understanding that even though you may not have technically birthed a child, or you may not have been a part of a child's life, for no fault of your own, and a child is wind up in foster care and wind up being adopted. All kids in foster care and adopted are not bad kids. Sometimes they just have life that happens. And because life happens, that's a chance for us as people, as Christians, however way you want to call it, that we're able to step in and be the hands of Christ, to be the hands of God, to take the kids in and to love them. Because the Bible says suffer the children to come. And when we do what we do for the children, then God is pleased at us, and he's pleased at what we're doing. And I'm so thankful that Chris, took the leap of faith to adopt not just one but two. And I can remember even when I was faced with adopting, and it got rough at one point during the process, because you're dealing with different emotions and different things. And Chris even encouraged me, because I was telling him, "No, I'm gonna tell these folks come get him. This is too much for me." But Chris encouraged me and told me, "Auntie," he said, "think about what his life would be if he didn't have you." And that stuck with me. And even when things sometimes get difficult with the different emotions that Isaac displays a lot of times, that sticks with me. Think about the life that they would have had they not been with you. And so that's what the thought that I want to leave with anyone who's considering foster care, or anyone who's considering adoption. If it's something that's been placed on your heart, think about what that life would be if you wasn't a part of it. And so, and then think about how the life would be if you were a part of it. So just, if that's something that is on your heart, do the research, search it out, and find out how you can be a foster parent, how you can be a adoptive parent. Now, I didn't adopt from Meridian, from Mississippi, but Chris, you did. So could you give the people the information here from Mrs. Meridian if they want to find out anything about adoption and foster care?
Sure. We went to the Meridian Child Protective Services, and we told them that we were interested in becoming a foster parent, or you can do foster to adopt, and they will give you the information you need to fill out an online application. And a social worker will get with you, and they'll work through it. You'll take some classes. They'll come do home visits and tell you what you need so that you can get your home license.
Okay.
And it's pretty simple.
It is. But and I want to also let you know too, love has no gender.
That's right.
Love has no gender. A child is not looking at whether or not you're a woman, whether or not you're a man, whether or not you have whether it's not two of you, one of you, three of you. All a child is looking for is someone to love them, and to love them unconditionally. So if you're ever thinking about doing foster care and adoption, then search it out. And so I just wanted to say to you, thank you, Mr. Christopher,
Thank you
for coming into the Eagle's Nest with me on tonight. And I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Each third Tuesday will be a segment, an hour of empowerment. Next month, for the Eagle's Nest, we will have Pastor Dr. Cynthia Gail Baskin. Now, this segment here will be a different segment. This will be a segment of a mother who has, even though she's in the capacity of being a pastor, she's a mother first. And so this be a segment where a mother will discuss how she still loved her son even though he was in an alternative lifestyle, and how she loved her son even though he was incarcerated, and how she's able to, because a lot of people say, well, you're a pastor, you ain't supposed this, that, but how she was able to, as a mother, to still love her kids unconditionally, no matter what decision that they made, because at the end of the day, God said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men. And what is it that will draw all men? Is love. So at the end of the day, love is the most important thing. So we'll have her in the Eagle's Nest for the month of October. And I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. So I just want to thank you for joining me tonight in the Eagle's Nest. You may be in it, but you're coming